In this video lesson, we're going to be writing equations in slope-intercept form. Before we get to the practice problems, let's do a little bit of review of slope-intercept form. The slope-intercept form of a linear equation is y equals mx plus b. In order to write a linear equation in this form, we need to make sure that there's three things happening. First, we want to make sure the equation is solved for y. That means the letter y needs to be by itself. Next, we want the right side of the equation to have two separate terms. And finally, we want to make sure that the variable x appears in the first term on the right side of the equation. With that in mind, let's look at the practice problems. The first equation is 12x plus 4y equals 28. Let's go ahead and get that in slope-intercept form at this time. In order to get this equation in slope-intercept form, we're going to have to solve the equation for y. The first step is to get the term containing y all by itself. So to do that, we're going to subtract 12x from both sides of this equation. After subtracting 12x from both sides, the equation looks like this. 4y equals negative 12x plus 28. And I want you to notice I intentionally wrote that so that the term containing x comes first. Now we're going to finish solving for y by dividing both sides by 4. When we divide both sides by 4, it creates a big ugly looking fraction over here. Negative 12x plus 28 all over 4. We want to make sure the right side is written as two separate terms. So to do that, we're going to take this big fraction and rewrite it as two smaller fractions. There we go. So now instead of negative 12x plus 28 all over 4, we have negative 12x over 4 plus 28 over 4. And now we can finish by simplifying each term separately to get our final answer. Y equals negative 3x plus 7. Let's look at the next practice problem. 36x minus 20y minus 180 equals 0. Let's go ahead and put this into slope-intercept form. There's a couple different ways you could proceed in order to get the term containing y by itself. I'm going to start by adding 20y to both sides of this equation. And when I do that, the equation ends up looking like this. 36x minus 180 equals 20y. And then because of the symmetry of equations, we can just rewrite this so the term containing y is on the left. So now I've got 20y equals 36x minus 180. Now, to finish solving, we're going to divide both sides by 20. And notice what I did here. I didn't write one big fraction. I wrote it separately. 36x over 20 minus 180 over 20. It gives me two terms, and it's a little bit quicker than writing one big fraction and then rewriting it as two smaller fractions. When I simplify my final answer, I end y equals 9/5 x minus 9. Let's move to the final practice problem. Negative 29.52x minus 3.6y equals negative 27. Let's go ahead and put this in slope-intercept form. In order to isolate the term containing y, we're going to add 29.52x to both sides. When we do that, the equation ends up looking like this. Negative 3.6y equals 29.52x minus 27. And again, notice I put the term containing x first on the right side of this equation. The last step of solving is to divide both sides by negative 3.6. And again, you see I've created two separate terms here instead of one big fraction. And that will allow me to just do a little bit less writing, and it'll get me my simplified answer a little quicker. By using a calculator, I can simplify the results and write my final answer. Y equals negative 8.2x plus 7.5. That concludes our video lesson. I hope this has been helpful.